Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our event. It's great that COVID is over and we can finally start having these types of events. We can finally start traveling. The airplanes are fuller, not fully full, but not empty as they were, a year ago. Because, today we will share Accenture technology vision, and that's something that we publish for about 15 years. And I don't know how it happens in other cases, but this is something that you can actually download, right? You can go now on, Google it, download it. So, like, in a sense, there is like no real reason why we should be all here, right? You can all read it all, and it actually does make a lot of sense to read like one by one, because some of the things that you would read now, like what we wrote 5 years ago, is something that we would see today in action. But then, even with material like this, and even if we are now, zooming and booming me through the space, and we will zoom the other speakers through the space, vision, ideas about how you can organize things in the future, they are really nothing until you see the people who came up with those ideas, and until you see the people who can actually make them come alive. Because of course, we can write on paper, every company is a digital company. This is something that we wrote like 10 years ago. And it sounds nice, or it maybe sounds strange, or maybe it sounds like, a no sentence, like every company is a digital company. But when you start looking at examples, when you start looking at, pizza companies becoming digital companies, then it rings a bell. Or when you meet a startup founder who lives that mission, then it rings a bell. And I guess for many of us, this is the learning that comes from those COVID times, when we're full of information, we're full of all types of meetups and Zoom-ups, but we couldn't meet. We saw COVID as a type of an opportunity, but also as a very interesting moment. It was the first year, the first 12 months of COVID. They were unique in a way that during those 12 months, people took more innovation than technology firms could produce. Typically, technology firms would produce a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of new platforms, a lot of new startups, and we see from our own experience, you do your first, for example, quantum computing project, and then it takes 15, 20 years for somebody for this thing to really pick up. And this was the first year when it was in reverse. People were actually using more of our work, more of our ideas than we could produce in a year. So it turned around. And I guess we've emptied the bottle of all this stuff that we were explaining to companies and individuals and folks. And this vision comes after those 2 years of very active innovation adoption rather than innovation generation. This is the first event of this kind that we do in Lithuania. We're now closing on the first year. It's really exciting. Huge thanks to everybody who welcomed us. Huge thanks to everybody who was in those first meetings. We're doing pretty good. It's a start, and we were just having introduction meetings, which we couldn't have during COVID times we've got about 60 people right now on payroll here in Lithuania. And what we discussed is that when you open up new practice, new office in a new country, the first thing that happens to you is that you fall in love with that country, right? And then everybody who is on this project, everybody who is on the team from both Lithuania and Latvia, and then from many other countries, because it's, of course, a very international firm of ours, right? Everybody is absolutely with love with Lithuania, right? People are telling stories about the restaurants, people are telling stories about startup communities, people are telling stories about all of the captive centers and all of the opportunities that creates. So we hope to be an important part, and we hope to add value to what happens here in Vilnius and all across the country, right? But now, without further ado, let's start.
Thank you, Maxims. Hello, everyone. And thanks also for our friends here in Lithuania, Rocket, for hosting us here in these nice premises. Always glad to be here. Really nice to be here. So, as Max said, yes, the technology vision is something you can have a look every year, and I would encourage you, it's not like limited and specifically like in September, October, or some months, because it's updated every time. So for example, once the new technology vision is released, after some months there is a deep dive on technology vision, for example, for banking or for retail or for SAP, right? So if your business is more in one or another industry, so follow up on the kind of site and just check after time what's interesting here. Also, another point is that although this technology vision as a report is brought by Accenture, because we have, as a big company, a responsibility for the whole world to share what's actually the new trends and why and how that impacts society. Actually, this vision is designed by insights not only from the Accenture people, although this is a big portion of the knowledge, but it also consists of a lot of high-level interviews with the research centers, universities, academics across the world. So they give us an insight, okay, so what are the tendencies, what are the trends for upcoming 3 to 5 years? And then this insight actually is blended with the interviews with the C-level big corporation managers asking, okay, so what's the direction where you will be budgeting your next 2 to 3 year budgets and why, right? So we're asking marketing directors, we're asking new business development directors, we're asking potentially what type of acquisitions they are planning, right? So again, blending that together and having also the interviews in the regions, and this is also something what will be in a few minutes covered by my colleague Martinez. So we're asking also you, consumers, kind of on the ground, on the land, and very soon in the metaverse. So what's your bet? What's your adoption of the new technologies? So having all these insights together, actually, this is how the report is created. And it's basically a living document, right? It's always adopted and adapted. So what's happening next? Every year we have a topic on the technology vision, and this year it's about the metaverse, right? And it's interesting that it's just to kind of be very straightforward. It's not anyhow connected to the Meta or previous Facebook, right? So the topic was decided or kind of clear already far before that, but the Meta and the Facebook move, actually it's a clear proof that the tendency and the direction what we see as a big shift actually in the business and the consumers is happening, right? So this year metaverse is a main topic. And what's also important, somehow also Max mentioned that it's this year we're talking not about the kind of like radical innovations, right? We're talking more about the evolution, and we see that this actually will be a continuum going and going and going further, right? So there is no kind of strict deadline when the metaverse as such will be finished or built, right? So it's a continuous adoption and fusing together different technologies. So just to give you an example, right? So all the technologies which are currently fused in the metaverse are actually, there was already for years, right? The same virtual reality for the years, it's already happening, right? The same blockchain was tested and tried out in a different use cases already for years, right? Not talking about the 3D design, arts, and gaming as such, right? So currently, with adoption, also with the 5G and another, not only kind of software evolution, but also hardware evolution, this came possible to mix that together. And again, as Maxim mentioned, of course, very big role played also COVID, right? It's accelerated the need to provide different solutions, different options, how consumers, and not only consumers, also the business can change and solve through these new technologies. So a quick flashback, actually, how it's all started, right? So if we look back, so then the beginning of the internet was actually more about the browsing and finding some data, right? And this is how we knew at that time the internet. Then this evolution moved further. And as I said, there is a big impact also not only of the internet as such evolution, but also of the hardware evolution, right? At that point, there was kind of from that type of phones, right? There was able to get to the smartphones. And by having a smartphone, actually the computer, what we had on a desk, and our use case, how often we use a computer, actually came into our pocket. So we naturally start to use our computer, so to say, more often. And through that, actually, also, there was this evolution, not only on a basic internet kind of services and platforms, but this evolved to the social network platforms and applications, right? So that's very big shift. And what's interesting also on the social network platforms, that's a very good example, similarly like to metaverse, that there is no single metaverse, right? There is no like only Meta, like no only Facebook or Twitter, Instagram or YouTube, right? So we see that at that time also there was and still a lot of platforms. And this is similar also to the metaverse. And we will come back to this later on. And also we will have a guest which will deep dive on one of the platforms much more, right? So evolving again more, there with the ability of the kind of connectivity of different devices, we can talk that there was a beginning of the era of the Internet of the Things, right? So yes, we don't say that it's already was intelligent. They were connected. There were exchange of the data. But again, that allowed to kind of move forward to the next like industrial internet of the activities, right? And through that evolvement, we see that it's coming to this metaverse as we know today. But if we look back, as I said, some of the samples were already in a place. But what defines for today is this metaverse exactly, right? So you can see that there is these two additional dimensions, right? Internet of ownership. So this is coming, in other words, saying about digital identity. Yeah? With enablement of the blockchain, it's now possible, if consumer or the user agrees on that his or her identity is kind of like known for the platform, right? And even more, the promise of this metaverse is that you, as this personality or digital identity, will be able to kind of walk through different platforms. Like today I'm working here in the rocket, I'm walking later on to the airport, the same 3 steps, right? On the internet, you log in from the one platform, you go to another platform. Currently, it's not always the same kind of identity from that perspective, right? So the promise and the usage also from the kind of person perspective is that at any time you will be the same person. So you will benefit from the seamless experience. You will benefit from the kind of more personalized services from the platforms, if you agree on that, of course, because security and data privacy is also a very high topic. And this is and will be very important through this kind of all the journey, right? Then another dimension is about the Internet of Places, right? We talking that we kind of expanding from the 2-dimensional internet as we know, like web, we go into the web browser, we appear there, right? We going out into 3- and 4-dimensional kind of experience of the same kind of platform, and then we will look in some of examples how these places look through, right? So by summarizing, we see that the metaverse actually is affecting all the occasions, whether how you as a customer or consumer interact with some new services, right? So a lot of the now possibilities to try out or understand how some fashion things look, you can do that in virtual reality, right? Or how the same kind of work is performed, right? For us as a business, we already see that a lot of these virtual meetings are happening in like in a Zoom, but there is also examples that these virtual meetings can happen in this virtual reality, right? So, for example, Accenture also has said, and we all also have our own metaverse, right? That first day of the new joiners, very soon they will spend a whole first day just in the metaverse, right? So they will be able to visit not only Lithuanian office physically, but they will be able to kind of go through the San Francisco, Chicago, Latvia, whatsoever, right? And meet other new joiners at the same time, right? So this gives a totally different perspective. And again, we talked, of course, as the products have been served, right? So from that perspective, that if I would like to buy now, I don't know, like new equipment, it will be possible through whether it's some kind of smart glasses or something, just to look and see how it will be placed here in this physically office in a right proportion, so I can adjust the color and decide immediately whether I'm buying or not, right? The same is about other things, of course, as a business operates, because things from, as I said at the beginning, there's a lot of questions to the companies, whether they're deciding to go in a metaverse, whether they are not deciding, right? So previously, a lot of companies who were specifically in the e-commerce, right? This is really hot topic for them to decide whether they still keep this e-commerce as they have now, where you just browse through some products, or you go to this next stage and you build a kind of three-dimensional experience and walkthrough where the people can experience with your products, try out, and also that experience, what you had in this three-dimensional environment, come back also to the physical experience, right? And the question, and I think using these premises where a lot of the startups live, right? Of course, you need to start somewhere, right? And there is no need to start kind of really big, because it's kind of investments as well, right? But still, once you decide to go there, the whole vision should be big, right? You don't need just to, okay, now I have a picture two-dimensional in my e-shop, now it will be three-dimensional. No, just kind of step back and try to understand how your customer, how your service is now expected to be consumed by your clients, right? And then when you see that there is a progress, of course, it's really to be up to speed and to be and use this advantage that actually you have decided this, and there is still your competition because which haven't done that. Yeah. So going much deeper in the details of the technology vision. So every year we have several kind of specific topics, not just a kind of overall theme as a metaverse, but we also have the kind of more details on to go through. So one of the things we already discussed is about WebMe, or about the platforms, or how I as a person kind of interact within the platforms, right? We touched about this digital identity, how much it is important, but so it's important to think both from the security side for those who are building the platforms, right? Because you need to have this promise to the person that once he or she is asked to share some identity details, that they see that and trust that this platform is kind of safe, right? And again, we're talking about here that it's not just a one platform, right? It's a lot of the platforms that people will be able to kind of step out and step into other platforms, but with the same identity, which will give them a lot of kind of benefits. So again, let's give you one example. So later on, I will be going to the airport, and it's kind of like annoying that every time you need to fill in mostly the same data, right? So I would feel kind of comfortable for the companies which I trust. One time you just sign that you are fine, that they know my data, and you just approve that you want this ticket, and everything happens immediately, right? Then this programmable world, I will give you an example. It's more about these digital twins. It's more about this personalized experience, right? Then the unreal of making synthetic authentic. I will share you what actually is synthetic data. I don't know whether you're all familiar with this term. But this is again something what's coming into this metaverse, or more to say, in acceleration of the possibilities of the metaverse, right? And then it's important to understand, as you saw from this evolvement, right? And you know all these industrial revolutions, that actually also the hardware evolution and the possibilities of the new different solutions, it's correlating the speed of the innovations, and it's the same is for the metaverse, right? So let's deep dive into the first of the trend about the web.me. And I want to give you kind of just recently, some weeks ago, I don't know, I think everyone knows this brand. H&M also launched their kind of metaverse, their digital room where people can walk through, look for the clothes. But also interesting that they run the fashion shows there, right? And you can go appear on these fashion shows and look how actually this design is on some special kind of live designs for special occasions, right? And you can organize also your special collections for example, for some corporates who would like to have. Then it's sometimes very kind of expensive to run their own fashion show, so you can do that also in a metaverse, right? But again, this is just one example, right? There is a Nike land also as a metaverse. There is, what's interesting, I know that one of your friends here in Rocket is a local startup community, Sandbox. But did you know that there is also a metaverse platform, Sandbox, right? So where people can create and exchange some digital gaming kind of creatures and sell them as NFTs, right? And it's not only just about the gaming or the fashion or the fancy things. So, for example, Macron, before the elections, he did his own room in the, what was his name? Another game for the kids, right? And he did it because he wanted to be in the, sorry? No, another one. But why he did it? He did it because Minecraft. That was, sorry. Yeah. So why he did it? He built his room in a Minecraft because he knew that there is a lot of his audience, or at least we as a parent see that our kids are all the time in this Minecraft. So somehow it affects us. And once we hear that, for example, like Macron is also doing this, so we kind of reflect that it's keeping up to the trends, right? So we see that it's all over. It's not just a business. It's not all in fashion. It's even going to the politics, right? And Thomas later on will share also about some other lands where with fusing together real and not real real estate, right? So keep on. Then the next trend is about this, as I said, about programmable world, or what you can do now with the speed of the 5G, with the edge computing, with all this information, actually, which is getting now much more intelligent, right? So I will give you a very simple example for those maybe who don't know the term digital twin. So digital twin basically is like kind of, one is an analog browser, another is a digital browser, right? So now it's a hot topic of kind of how to save the energy, and I believe you also have here in Lithuania a hot topic about solar panels and how to get the energy and save some money, right? So that is an analog browser, right, who lives on the roof, right? But then there is a digital browser who lives actually in the PC, and actually he has a third browser who lives in the cloud, right? So they are all interconnected, and because of this digital browser, the all data coming from the kind of your solar panel, intensity, what was the amount of the sun that day, or consumption, what you did during the day in your building, or when the next maintenance is planned for your solar panels, or if there was some kind of breach on the system, or there was some physical interruption on those panels, right? All that is kind of analyzed, stored, and because of this 5G and all these cloud possibilities, no matter where you are yourself, you can get these results and be kind of with this information, right? So that is a kind of like basic example. But of course, it doesn't kind of stop just with a solar panel. So with the possibility of this, we speak about 5G. What it gives like kind of immediate and not delayed information again across some lot of kind of kilometers, right? So just give you a kind of basic information. So you see this an example with this kind of very fancy industrial equipment, right? And we know how painful and also costful can be that if something breaks and you need to reserve some specialist who can come over, I don't know, like in a week or two, but in worst scenario, it's some cool technique from Germany and he or she can appear only in 2 months, right? So what if you could do yourself, or what if you have a good engineer at your own place, and he or she just needs to be smartly guided by real-time kind of experience, right? So currently it's possible, right? So everybody wins. There is no queues on the specialist. He can take over the kind of internet, like 10 consultancies over the day. He don't need to fly nowhere, right? Again, we can talk about the sustainability and good green footprint, not consuming too much fuel on the airplanes, right? Again, this is just two quick examples. Please deep dive on more on this topic on the internet, right? Then about this synthetic data, I promised you to kind of demystify what is a synthetic data, or in other words, this is a kind of like not real data, right? The data which didn't exist before, right? And why it's needed, right? So we talked that previously there was a connected devices, there was data, but there wasn't intelligence of the data, right? So, and that actually was one of the main blockers why the artificial intelligence or the artificial intelligence algorithms were not kind of speeding fast enough. So we would hear all around the world that AI have improved that, AI improved that, right? And how the artificial intelligence works in very basic words, it's kind of like a pupil, right? It learns, right? You need to learn, you need to teach it. And it learns from the, so to say, libraries of the amount of data. Again, just give you a basic example, right? If you want to teach camera detecting the dog, you just feed like 1,000 pictures of the dogs, 1,000 pictures of the cats, 1,000 pictures, I don't know, different other animals, and you just kind of tag, this is dogs, this is not dogs, this is other animal. So the algorithm starts to understand, okay, which is what, and next time when it sees, it detects what it is, right? But there is a tons of use cases where actually these data are not available. Or, for example, why should we spend a lot of time to find 1,000 pictures of the dogs or 1,000 pictures of something else if you can actually artificially or synthetically create them, right? Again, one basic example, again, from our today's live, we want to be green, right? We want to recycle. And there is those machines where you put the bottle, it kind of should recognize that it's a bottle and give me back the money because I'm a good person, I'm kind of recycling, right? But because these bottles are very often damaged, not all of the machines understand that this is a bottle. For example, we in our country have some of these machines which ask that please blow in a bottle so it gets round back, and only then it will understand that this is a bottle, right? It's a, from kind of IT terms, it's a very linear algorithm. It just understands very narrow and basic, right? So how about helping 3 steps that I can put tons of my damaged bottles in this box, and all the bottles are recognized as the bottles, right? So by using this synthetic algorithm, you basically create a mock-up of one bottle, and then you just run a simulation that it creates like 1 million versions of the damaged bottles, right? You feed it in, so the next time the machine will receive the one of 1 million versions of the damaged bottle, it will understand it's a bottle and it will proceed, right? So just one example. So imagine if you need to ask a class of the students, please, can you make 1,000,000 versions of damaged bottles, right? It's no reasonable, right? The same example is about the autonomous cars, right? So cost-wise, how do you think, is it worth to train an autonomous car on the field and just get some 100 broken cars, or it's better to use the synthetic data and train it in the digital environment, right? I believe its answer is straightforward, right? When we talk about synthetic data, we talk also about this term. I believe everyone is familiar about deep fakes, right? And first association is about the deep fakes. It's not so good, right? There is some people cheating and showing up that there is some other person, and then it's kind of not good. But I will give you another example how the deep fakes can be used for good, right? And this is what we do in technology. We also apply technology for society for the good causes, right? So David Beckham was asked to support the anti-malaria campaign to kind of improve with this special kind of illness. And of course, to kind of from the marketing perspective, to get the message, it's much easier that I would be speaking now in Lithuanian, right? Not in Lithuanian, not like in English, right? Unfortunately, I'm not a deep fake. I'm currently still physical here, maybe next year. But so David Beckham was just recorded one time. His voice was recorded separately, and then by applying deep fake, there was actually produced more than 15, 20 different TV ads, and he was speaking Spanish, Hindi, whatsoever, right? And also his lips were moving like according to that language, right? So imagine how that was perceived, that he is not like speaking English, and then there is some Hindi subtitles, right? Which kind of, it doesn't ring a bell, right? So you can see how this can be applied as well for very good reasons, right? Last but not least, we spoke that, of course, this one thing is about these innovations, algorithms and all that stuff, and creative ideas, but it's also important how the progress or this evolution of the computing power or the hardware is progressing, right? And one of the topics Maxim's already mentioned is about the quantum computing. There is a very big promise that the quantum computing already, but still more in the future, will help to accelerate different kind of researches, different optimizations. And we're already currently working with University of Latvia, brightest minds for the healthcare to solve difficult solutions, because again, remember I gave you this example about how the AI algorithm works and how, for example, it proceeds like 1,000,000 pictures, right? But if that is merged with the quantum computing, then that type of kind of analytics can be run much quicker, right? So, for example, again, quantum computing was used for when was this COVID vaccines were produced, right? Because we know that in kind of regular life, it should take like 14 to 20 years to be analyzed whether this vaccine is working or not. But of course, we didn't had that time. So by applying a quantum computing and artificial simulations, they were able actually to run through these simulations, and with the kind of like confidence of 95%, you were hearing this in the news, right? These percentages of the confidence. They went to some potential assumptions that this should be working, right? So that made it happen, right? And it's, of course, it's not only about the quantum computing. You will be hearing more about the biocomputing and all different type of hybrid kind of solution, right? So that's very shortly it. My name is Kristaps. We will definitely meet next time in a metaverse. Possibly I will be talking Lithuanian. And I would like to leave you with a quote. I know that change sometimes can be hard, and we always think that the grass was greener yesterday and the sky was bluer, but we need to move forward, right? And I think we need to take from this change what is good, apply that, and move forward. So I also moving forward and giving word to my colleague Martinez. And as I said, in the research, we were using different data as well from the field. So Martinez will share some of the insights from the Lithuanian thing.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Kristaps. Yes, my name is Martynas Rudokas. I'm country lead in Lithuania for Accenture. And yeah, so after Kristaps' presentation about all the coming technologies, we will look into how ready we are in Lithuania to adopt it, and what is needed to do that. So in order to glimpse into this, we made a survey. We asked Lithuanian people about their current use of digital technology. So good news. People, 52% of us, of Lithuanians, thinks that our digital skills are in general good, right? So I think this is a really good start, really good way to start. And what else we found out is that people are not only confident about their knowledge, they also understand the value of the knowledge. And 59% of people see that digital skills gives a competitive advantage in the labor market. And I mean, this is just I kind of no wonder why, And from my experience in customer-based management, I would say 10 years ago it was done by project manager type, communication manager type of person, right? Then last 5 years, what we see, customer-based management was done by data analytics because of the, all the data technology and then capabilities it brought. And moving forward, I believe that customer-based management will be done by artificial intelligence, and the most probably will be operated by some tech-savvy marketing person, right? What else? People not only understand the value, but also are mindful about technology progress, that they need to learn. They need constantly learn and upgrade their skills. So 77%, mindful about that. And even more, what is really important and interesting, that 22% saying, they are ready to upskill and to switch totally their career to IT. I believe this is something what we see in Lithuania, in those upskilling companies, reskilling companies, number of graduates from those companies reached number of graduates from universities, at least what we see here. So, I mean, this kind of, proves that, people moving towards technology. And, this lets, this slide and, previous two slides, I think it lets to summarize that we, in Lithuania here, we have pretty good foundation adopting this new technology Kristaps was talking about. More good news, I would say majority of people are really positive about digital technology and about their experience with digital technology. 84% says, digital technology really improved their life in recent years. And, when I think of that, I think that it is related a lot to growth of e-commerce. Max was talking about also. What we see in the world, that e-commerce grew 10 years and 3 months. Of course, it's in the United States, but I believe we witnessed something similar in Lithuania as well, right? And I remember, during a pandemic, I remember talking to one tech appliances chain in Lithuania, and they reached their online sales during a pandemic, reached their offline sales, pre-pandemic offline sales in 6 months. So it was really interesting, interesting insight, right? I mean, pandemic like pushed companies to invest into digital technology to meet the need, to meet the competition. But at the same time, pandemic pushed users to adopt this digital technology. 63% says they purchased more online during a pandemic. What is also interesting that those circumstances, right, the pandemic, and the adoption of the technology has a lasting effect, because 91% says they tend to shop online even now after pandemic ended and we have all the restrictions lifted. 66% says that every merchant, every shop should have an online option, right? And so for me, this just shows that technology adoption can be really fast under some circumstances, right? The most probably we don't want to repeat those circumstances to repeat, So I'm thinking that another way to increase speed of technology adoption is education. And speaking of education, I think it is also essential facing fears of technology. People face, and then we see from the survey again, 36% don't want to share their data with merchants, although they are really happy about their experience. 43% of people have see general risks in technology development, and only 29% of people are confident about their how to safely use the internet. And I strongly believe that those fears are driven by lack of knowledge, of education about technology, lack of knowledge how to safely use technology. Of course, also the most probably lack of trust of companies providing this technology. And again, with metaverse and Christos was telling with new concept, the need of new concept for digital identity, those fears, technology might incite those fears further. And again, I believe that education is the right way to approach those fears. For companies, it is important not only to invest into technology that would face, kind of solve those fears or solve the digital identity problem, but also invest into education, society education, to increase speed of technology adoption. Switching a bit about metaverse and the future. So when we see Christos' presentation, it looks like it's 5-10 years in the future, right? But when we ask people, people are ready to use this technology. They are ready for totally new way of communication using an avatar, and then those glasses, right? And 35% is a lot. It's not, innovators only. It's not only, early adopters. It's already, early majority according to maturity. This matrix I have here. And so for me, it means, that metaverse is here and now. And, of course, you may say this is optimistic, right? Martinez, 35% is optimistic. And most probably I agree with you, but at the same time, we will have Tomas Nesčišonis speaking right after me. And these guys, his company is building, houses in a digital environment as we speak, the most probably, right? So, yeah, so metaverse is here and now, and users are ready to use it. Question, how companies are ready to supply this, this new technology. Going through this survey, I was, idea came to my mind that, again, these coming technologies, they will change the way we work more than ever before, most probably, right? And we all will need to be fluent with this technology. I mean, by we, I mean creators, developers, but also users, right? And for our small country, it is to be successful, I believe we need to, we need to learn to educate ourselves, to learn technology, and technology should become something similar to English knowledge, in Lithuania. So, yeah, I want to invite us all to invest into education for companies, the most probably, to invest into society education, cooperating with universities, for users as all to just keep up with technology, become lifelong learners, because I believe that one way or the other, we will all, be in the metaverse as, creators or as users. Thank you. Thomas. Yeah?
Thank you. Thank you, Martynas. Was really informative, a lot of numbers. Can't remember all of them. So, I was thinking to go into details, how we're doing, how we're building, but maybe I will start from my vision, what is metaverse. My vision of metaverse, I start from metaverse I compare to universe. And as we have one universe, there's one metaverse. We don't have many metaverses or universe, so it's one universe. And the Big Bang, it happened already back in the 90s with the internet. And the universe is expanding. As the universe or metaverse is expanding, we're getting planets, virtual worlds, galaxies, platforms. I believe the big tech companies like Meta, Facebook will build platforms, galaxies. They're not building a metaverse because you can't build the internet. So, and smaller and the planets and will be built by smaller companies, which we call virtual worlds, like Sandbox, Decentraland. What kind of metaverse we will have? It will be decentralized or centralized or open or closed. I think it will depend from us. It will depend from community. And I hope as the metaverse will expand, it will be decentralized and open for everyone. So when it was mentioned before how we get into metaverse, we need to take a small steps, but think big about it. So our company, we decided to help to make this first small step. So, and the step starts from the space. You need the space. Same as in the real world, you need the space. Space to meet each other, space to discuss, have ideas and have conversations, etc. So the space will start from the virtual worlds, and in those virtual worlds we will have virtual cities. And as I mentioned, I hope that as the worlds and cities will be decentralized, or I believe in what we have now, it's a hybrid. And what it will give us, decentralized and open virtual cities, we can have creative economy. And from the city, in the cities we have different types of properties, like in real world. We will have commercial, retail. What I'm saying with commercial, it will start with retail, special purpose, where we can have meetings, galleries, you name it, all as the same as we have in real world. And the last one, residentials. So I don't think residential will be as needed in the first steps, but our company decided to start from residential project, and we'll see how it will go. All those spaces, like a creative economy, will be driven by community. Business, tech, art community, sports, entertainment, education, and gaming. As we know now, the most famous like virtual worlds, let's say Sandbox or Decentraland. It started from the gaming community, but I believe, and we can see now, it's moving towards business community, retail community, big brands coming in those worlds, financial brands coming in those worlds. I get very often the question, how you build in virtual real estate. So the process is same as we build in the real world. The first phase where we start is research and analysis. We research different virtual worlds, we research different lands, and it depends from the project. We choose which best worlds where to build because they are different. Then we need the finance, like every project, and then acquisition. If we decide to build in Sandbox, we need to acquire land, digital land. That's where it all started. And architecture. So we're using same drawings. We speak with this architecture. There's no meta architectures yet, but we need to use same drawings as in real life for the real buildings. So after phase one, the other team, I call them construction team because there's no name, but it's different from the real world. Our construction team is not the plumbers, electricians with the gaskets, no. So we have different teams, and the first team is 3D production team, which is, we have 3D artists, 3D renderers. So this team take over the drawings, and they start building it. Then we have game development team, who's making this building more where you can use it, from static to non-static, etc. Then we have blockchain developers, smart contract, and NFT, so we can create economy in those buildings or projects in those cities. Like I mentioned, our first pilot project is Skylum, and we call Skylum, this project is MetaReal project. What I mean by MetaReal project is Skylum is being built now in Vilnius. It's a real building, and we digitalized this building in Metaverse and deploying in the Metaverse. And we started, first deployment will be in the Decentraland. So as you see, you can go to the building when this will be built. It will be almost exactly from the looks inside the residential flats. It will be same in the Metaverse. I believe that everyone will have a space in the Metaverse. From this, my vision is that by this end of this decade, we will have around 1.7 billion M sites in Metaverse. So it's really busy times ahead. Everyone will be very busy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tom. It's really interesting to see, how we just talked about technology and how those technologies are applied, right? Right as we speak. So, thank you all. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I encourage you to learn new digital skills so that next year we could meet in Metaverse. So, thank you all, and bye. Yes, and for those who are here in real